What's up, Peyton? How's it going today?
So good. How are you?
It's good. So, fortunately, I've had the benefit of you helping with my sales team. And, while I have not been on every call, the ones that I am on, even giving you like my sales calls that you've looked at have been super helpful. And I think that there's so much noise, not necessarily bad, but in the high ticket coaching space, right? Like I'm seeing so many sales coaches popping up. Would you say that you're kind of seeing the same thing?
Yeah. It's definitely become more of a attractive, you could be a sales coach when you're tired of closing 100%.
Yes. I mean, I feel like everything is like that, right? Like you sell one person one thing one time, you're like, I'm going to coach that. I'm going to business
Yeah.
coach that. But anyway, so I feel like there's a lot of noise and I was really excited to kind of jump in with you because I really admire the way that you sell. Nothing about it feels overly aggressive, but I'm still like enamored by the podcast you sent me with that objection handling. So, sorry, the people on here won't get to hear that. But I want to first dive in with just, you've worked on some really massive teams, right? Like eight-figure plus businesses.
hmm
And I want to know kind of how did you realize that you kind of had a knack for sales? Like, how did you kind of morph into the coaching aspect of it?
I mean, my first shot at it would be managing teams. They're not every time we see this mistake a lot where it's like the best closer on your team. Oh, they could just run the team. That doesn't always work out. Sometimes it does. For me, it ended up working out, but man, it was sloppy. My first go at training salespeople was taking over a sales team. And then I got demoted after 3 months because I didn't know what I was doing. And I went back to closing, cut my teeth, started learning a little bit more about not just what works, but why does something work, and then how do I also download that into someone else. Then my second go at it ended up working out. But then the more I could, work with more teams, work with more managers and whatnot. That's when more of the nuances started clicking into place. And the more experience you get with the transference game, not just being good at closing, but being able to get someone else to be good at closing. That's when things started taking off, and then it was like, okay, this is something that I'm significantly, in my humble opinion, above the crowd in terms of like the game of transference and downloading that into other sales reps. But it took a lot of crashing the bike.
I would say that that's a fact. Like, I appreciate that you're humble, but like, I would say that's a fact. You've cut your teeth, like you said, and we will get into the management of that too, because I know so many coaches listening to this, whether you have a sales team or hiring your first closer set or whatever, the management is the really, really hard part of a sales team. Like, I can say that from my
Yeah,
experience, it is not easy. I spend more time talking to my sales team than anything else that I do.
yeah,
And I think it's really daunting because you don't need a sales manager for a pretty long time, and I think a lot of people just assume like let me delegate everything as fast as possible. And while sometimes that can work for things like graphics or editing or whatever, the more time you spend in your sales team, the more gaps you find and the faster you can quick like fix things. You know what I mean? And I think
yeah.
that's what I've really learned this last year in my business. Not that I wasn't aware of that, but the more people you hire, the more nuanced your funnels become, right? Like you just find little things you can clean up, right? And so I'm excited to chat about that. But what would you say, like, since leaving traffic and funnels, right? Again, it's been half a decade, lots changed. What would you say has like morphed in maybe something that you've coached? Like what's kind of changed or evolved? Something that you maybe would have said 5 years ago, but maybe now learning more, this is like maybe something different that you're teaching on or something that you hone in on more.
Yeah, absolutely. I think well, the biggest piece that, and this is something that even I got to do a little bit with your team, would be on the performance game of things as well. That's and this is why I love fitness. This is why I love fitness sales too, is because fitness and sales, it's two of those things that both require high levels of performance. And when you get better at either of those, everything in your life gets better, whether it's fitness, whether it's sales, for sure. And so when I started getting into the realm of the mental game of sales and performance and treating sales as a mental sport, not just training on sales tactics, call reviews, but also how do we optimize the human? How do I get this person to have a sharper mind, be more, have more energy and whatnot? That started making a huge difference, not only for myself, but even for my clients. In fact, there's some clients I have that I haven't reviewed one of their calls in 3 weeks. but they're hitting these bonuses and these revenue numbers and closing rates that they've never hit before, because when you optimize performance, that what that does is that brings up your floor, so to speak. So you have more levels of consistency rather than like, man, I had this one month where I closed at 50% and I'm the best, but then the next one you close at 15. And it's like you didn't get hit on the head. This isn't a skill set issue. This is a you issue. You didn't forget how to sell. You just don't know how to manage yourself. You don't know how to keep yourself in the high levels of performance. And once I started figuring that out and pairing it together with sales training, that's made a huge difference for all my clients and teams that I work with.
I think it's so helpful that you say that because I want to dive into like the solopreneurs right now that are selling because I do think there's a challenge when you're the founder and you get on a sales call and you try to become somebody that you're not. You know what I mean? Like so many calls
Sure.
I review for like my lower level clients, I'm like, this is not the same person that I talked to, and
Who
this is
are you?
exactly why you didn't close the deal. But like, what would you say is kind of like the number one shift that coaches need to make to just show up more confidently on their calls, like at a very simple level, because I think so many people get psyched out about closing a deal. They just want to coach, you know?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, two things initially come to mind, and if I had more time to think about it, then I might have a different answer. But the first two things that come to mind would really be like one, you have to understand that what you sell is the most important thing for this person, which I know sounds very simple, like overly simple, like we should know that. But even I agree with you. I'll review some calls with fitness trainers or whatever, and it's like you are not selling it. You're selling this as if like there's like it's a vacuum. It's not, this isn't just an optional thing for their life and they could take it or they could leave it. Like this is going to help this client of yours be able to run around with their grandkids one day. How do you have such low levels of certainty and conviction when I'm listening to your voice? Like have you forgotten how important this is? And sometimes too, when you've been doing something forever, it becomes obvious to me, and then I start sounding that way when I'm on sales calls, but it's not obvious to them. This is life changing for them. This couldn't be the most important thing that they could possibly talk about. And so that high level of certainty and conviction is one easy piece. And then the other piece would be shit. What was the question, Taylor? You got me
We've gone
ramped
down
up
rabbit
now.
holes. No, what is whenever a founder is really trying to like show up as a closer, so to speak, right? What are the mistakes that they make?
Yes. Okay. Got it. So the first part would be that certainty and conviction. And then the other piece of it would be that like, and this goes not even just for solopreneurs, but even some of your clients that are doing, 50, 60, 70K a month, maybe they even do have some salespeople on their team or whatever. You cannot efficiently download something into someone else that you don't have. There's that quote, so cliche, but like you can't pour out of an empty cup or whatever. It's put it on a Pinterest board. It's so cliche, but it is so true. Like you cannot download this into someone else if you are not already extremely proficient at it. You're gonna encounter these problems later. You can either pay now, you can pay later. It always costs more later. And so what I would also say is like, man, you got to really treat this sales skill as one of the key defining pillars of your business. You will never be able to outspend on marketing a low close rate. You will never be able to fix the sales gaps in your business with some other system, AI tool, or whatever. You have to treat sales also just like you would treat your fitness, where like this is the most important thing for my business. This is the most important thing that I could possibly get better at so that I can change more lives, increase revenue, but then that'll also make it way easier for me to hand off the mantle, hand off the baton down the road as well. And I would say even for someone that already has a sales team or a sales manager, take calls, and you should still be working at expanding and getting better at the game of sales. There's only an upside.
Correct. And I think so many coaches go into business neglecting sales and marketing entirely, right? Because, your first few sales, I feel like come easy, right? If it's a referral, the person knows you, whatever. But then the second that you start to get more calls booked, maybe marketing is picking up and you start to get more no's, oh my God, the mental breakdown. You
Hmm.
know what I mean? And you talk a lot about emotional control in sales. And I know that's more so for like the call, right? But I also want you to talk about just like the emotional reactivity that some of these coaches lack and kind of how to prepare yourself for if a call doesn't go the way you want it to and you have another call right after, right? How do you prevent that from impacting you?
Yeah, that would be a performance thing. And I do agree with you that like sometimes like once we get that first sale, then it starts to become easy. So sometimes we have this little hump we have to get through, which is like just get the first one.
Mhm.
And then things start getting better and you're like, I'm God. I'm going to be rich. And then we start losing some of the momentum because it's not new anymore. And some of the consistency of it, they create makes it feel monotonous or whatever. And then that's when we start getting into like performance ruts, so to speak. But I was just on a call recently with someone that they botched a call. And when we're looking into why did you botch a call, it's okay, because the one right before it went poorly. And so what they did is they were carrying a poor experience from one call, and then they were punishing their next prospect with that same energy. And so one thing I tell reps or business owners, anyone that's taking calls, is like, man, you have to wash your hands of every single call. Every call that I take, this is my first call of the day. There's that no whether even good calls before. I've even caught myself, you probably have too, where it's like I have a really good call and I'm on fire, and then I just throw my process out the window because I'm feeling so hot on a good call, and then it just collapses because I miss things in the process that I shouldn't have skipped or whatever. So it's like good or bad, you got to be able to wash off the previous call. Imagine someone that really needs your help. They really need to work with you. Their health and fitness is not where it needs to be. All of these areas of their life are suffering because of that, and you punish them because of a poor call right before it, and it costs them everything. I can't live with that on my conscience. I can't. You got to be able to wash it off. This is their first experience with you. This could be the one call that changes everything for them. And when you see it from that perspective, then fuck the last call. Like, who cares if it went poorly, or who cares if it went great? This is a brand new person. This person needs the best version of you right now.
I mean, I always say that emotional intelligence is like the number one skill any entrepreneur needs, right? And I think it kind of
Yeah.
goes hand in hand with this because, sales is something that we get so emotionally tied to it, right? I talk to coaches
Yeah.
so often where one no just wrecks their day. And it's the same thing when, maybe a coach is having back-to-back client calls, right? And one client call is just the client crying. And
Yeah.
everything's going wrong, everything sucked. And then the next client's a rock star, but you're like so distraught from that call that you kind of bring that energy to the next, it's the same thing. And it really is hard to wash it off. I recorded something recently about, how do you like shake off a stressful day? Because there are days where like you just get back to back crap leads or just challenging
Sure.
calls, hard objections. You know what I mean? And I don't want this to deter anybody, but for me, it's like, okay, cool. This is where I need to be better. You know what I mean? And I think it's just so important that you kind of share at scale. At scale, you're going to hear more no's. At scale, you're going to hear more objections, right? At scale, you realize that everybody kind of has an objection, right? And you just have to kind of
Yeah.
break through that. And I think that's what people get so deterred by. I've got a lot of bodybuilding coaches in particular that like to tell me, Taylor, no one will ever pay me more than $300 per month. I can't sell that because bodybuilders are broke. What are your thoughts?
All of them, yeah, all of them are destined then change your market, but that's not true, and we all know it to be true. Like I don't want to get too deep into psychology if you don't want me to, but I would say like this is a big thing with business owners or salespeople in general too, where it's like we attach our confidence pockets to a closed deal or to a revenue number, which can work out okay for you in the beginning because getting that closed deal. Do you remember your first closed deal?
Hmm.
I remember mine, and
Hmm.
I've never felt a drug rush since the same. It was crazy. It was the best. It was euphoric. That was great. That helped me. That served me at the time. But as you like you said, you start scaling, the variance increases. So I hear more yeses, but I also hear a shitload of more nos. If the standard KPI in high ticket fitness sales or whatever is 20%, that means 80% of people are going to be telling you no. And as you increase your call volume, that 80% means more no's, even though it's still 80%. And when we attach our confidence and how we feel about ourselves to a closed deal or a revenue number, then what that does is that puts you on the worst emotional roller coaster that you could possibly experience. And this is also probably what creates such a short shelf life for business owners and salespeople, is because that roller coaster up and down is exhausting and it creates a lot of problems. So, like, I close a deal, have a good week, and I am on top of the world. I feel amazing. And the next week, it's not as good. And so it's like, I am shit. Do I even know how to sell? Maybe I should quit. I
I'm
need to go
shit.
back. I need to go work at Sonic. And it's like, whoa, oh my God. If instead we can attach our confidence and how we feel about ourselves to, I showed up today and I was excellent. I left it all out on the field. There are external factors that are wrapped into a deal closing that sometimes we can't control, but I can always control my effort. I can always control, was I excellent today? And we all know whether we're excellent or not. That's nothing frustrates me more than me. Sometimes my wife and I will be on date night and she could tell I'm like, I'm not totally there. I'm like, I'm thinking through something. She's like, what's wrong with you? I'll be like, I didn't give my all today. I just know I didn't. She's like, what's wrong with you? It's just these are entrepreneurs, these are business owners, salespeople, high performers. You know when you're not being excellent. And so if we set up our confidence portfolio away from the external closed deal or the revenue number or whatever, you sleep like a baby at night because every single day I can feel confident and I can feel great about myself. I can have pride in what I do because my confidence and how I feel is coming from leaving it all out on the field and being excellent. That means I show up consistently in the best mindset possible, in the best headspace possible. And therefore, I end up closing more deals. And so a lot of times I read this recently in a book, The Road Less Stupid by Keith Cunningham. If you haven't read it, by the way,
Mm-hmm.
great book. You have, yeah. He talks about goal setters tend to make the mistake of falling more in love with the goal than with the activities that will get them the goal. And that's literally what we're talking about right here, where it's like most ruts are created from you've attached your identity to the close, and that kills you. That's how you get thrown into ruts. But I am immune from ruts because my confidence comes from like every single day I sweat for my clients. When I'm on a sales call, I left it all out on the field. Whether they closed or not, I feel fine about my performance. I feel excellent. I'm proud of myself because I did everything I could, and that makes me feel great, and that makes me be consistent on my calls. That also protects me from getting all these no's, and then I start punishing the next person. Why would I need to punish the next person? I did everything I could. I feel great about myself. There's nothing for me to be in a rut about or punish the next person for. I did everything that I could in what I can control. I feel great. That was a long little word vomit right there. So sorry if I
It's
didn't
it
even
no,
hit the
it's
thing.
it's needed though. It's needed because it doesn't matter where you're at. I mean, whatever you're growing in business, whether you're talking about sales or whatever. I mean, I'm spending a lot more on ads and I'm getting a lot more hate comments. You know what I mean? Like this
Yeah.
didn't happen with organic marketing and now I'm like getting all this crazy stuff. My favorite is Go Die. That's always a classic.
Mhm.
I'm like, nice. Who hurt you today? So it's like, if you and you mentioned something earlier about just like the emotional roller coaster. And I think so many coaches need to hear that because to me, success as a business owner is about staying on path, right? And
Mhm.
to reduce the time spent off path. And I see it too often where an injury, a personal thing, something weird, too many no's, 3 clients quitting, you're thrown off your game for 7 to 14 days. That's almost half the month, right? And so, if you're spending half of
Yeah.
getting back on path, of course you're not fucking growing, right? So anyway, I could go off on a tangent there too. I want to switch gears though into managing the sales team, right? And what that looks like because I get so many coaches who try to fight me when I tell them they need a daily sales huddle. They don't understand the importance of a daily sales huddle. Thank you for laughing.
Yeah. Because I get it. I hear it too. I'm laughing. I'm laughing with you in pain
Yeah. Okay, cool. So why do I need a daily sales huddle?
because you're dealing with people. Salespeople are the most emotionally volatile people in the world. That requires a lot of consistent. Like you are the anchor. You are the one that can help reset the barometer. Bring if people show up to your sales meeting and they are low energy and they're not really feeling it, are you confident to put them on sales calls? No. Well, are you really glad you caught it so you could fix it? Yes. Otherwise, all of the ad spend to get those people on the calendar today just got wasted because you weren't willing to have a daily sales huddle. If everything's fine, everything checks out, the team is feeling good, they're rocking, numbers are good, keep it short, move on with your life, do whatever you want to do with the extra time. But this is one of those you'd rather be safe than sorry. I'd rather have it, not need it, than need it, not have it. So a daily sales huddle, like, yeah, absolutely. There's some great sales training that every sales rep needs, but as well as like the performance, the energy side of things, like, is this person really in pocket? You would want to know before they get on calls with leads that you paid for.
I agree. And I think, I always get the thought of like, well, I understand why it's needed in the first few weeks as I'm training them. But like, could we just meet once a week? And I'm like, do you just think about sales once a week? Right? Because to your person, like you're managing people. And imagine working for a business owner that you never spoke to. You're just showing up, kind of aimlessly working, never talking, right? Clocking in, clocking out. There's no motivation. Like, that's exactly how not to build a ride or die team.
Yeah, business owners, you need to recognize that like your salespeople aren't you. As a business owner, there is and that you need mentorship. That there's a big need for mentorship and working with the consultant, with the coach, working with Taylor and her
Oh,
team. There's your plug right there for you. Yeah, for sure. There's a need for that. But like the fact that you are a business owner, you are who you are, there is a sense of like internal drive where you can somewhat manage yourself and you can get yourself to do things that other employees they don't have that. Your salespeople are not you. You can't expect them to just, well, they should be an entrepreneur, or they should be an entrepreneur and they could just manage themselves. Can we only do once daily sales huddle a week? Do you only want sales one day of the week? Now I'm not a crazy person. I'm reasonable. Like depending on the size of the team, you could break that into 3 days a week or have, Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. That's fine. But the you have to inspect what you expect. Inspect what you expect. That means that the more touch points and temp checks that you have with your sales team, the more likely they are to perform in accordance with what you expect from them.
and just consistently, right? Because again, I talk a lot with my mentor about this, right? Like at a certain level, every problem in business is a people problem, generally speaking. Like it's
Yeah.
managing your team and managing their energy. And I like to look for team members that do not swing from a high A to a failing score, right? If that's how the team performs week to week, it's challenging. If I can get somebody who kind of consistently is like a B average, A some days, like obviously we have bad days, that's fine. But if you are, let's say you hired a setter, because I think a lot of coaches that are listening to this maybe don't have a closer yet, they've got a setter and they're thinking, do I need to meet with them every day? And a lot of these coaches want setters because they weren't very good at the DMs, right? And the more that you speak to that setter, the more it forces you to not be so hands off with the process. Like you have to look at the numbers, pay attention to them, and you're never caught off guard. That to me is what is so important with coaches that are like scaling and starting to build their first team is it forces them to just spend time with the data every day, which is
Yeah.
like I wish I would have done 4 or 5 years ago.
Yes. 100, like that feeling of like, oh, how did we get here? I feel like the rug was pulled out from under me. You the engine light was on. You didn't take it in. You didn't take a look. Yeah. So the daily sales meetings, 100%, like the more temp checks you have, the less likely you are to be surprised and find yourself in a position where it's like, oh, well, we're screwed. It didn't just happen overnight. That was building. You just didn't look at the data. You didn't see the trends happening. And to, like you said, yeah, everyone has bad days. Every business has bad weeks, a bad month or whatever. But if you can shorten that cycle and that feedback loop, well, then you can minimize the collateral damage because we caught a problem sooner. All problems were built over time. And if you can shortcut that and you can catch something sooner, then maybe this problem doesn't even come to fruition. It doesn't cost you anything. Or at the very least, you can minimize that from like, wow, this took a big, 30-40% of chunk of our revenue in a month, and you could bring that down to 10 to 15. That's a 15% swing in that example. That's a lot of money for some of these business owners.
I agree. So as you've worked with teams, business owners that are learning how to manage better, or as you've learned, right? Like, what are some common mistakes that you see with founders that just are struggling to kind of manage a sales team?
I tell all my business owners that are running teams or managers that I work with to treat management like a sales call. You get objections. You need to be able, there needs to, there, we need to point out the gaps. We need to be able to get tie downs, commitments. When you treat something like a sales call, like managing a team, then you are more likely to get the outcome, the output from your reps that the same way that you would, if I'm on a call with you and I want to make sure that XYZ doesn't turn into an objection that ends up crippling the sales process, then I'm going to get tie downs and commitments from you that won't prevent you from moving forward. Do the same thing with your sales team. Like use your sales process. Sales is all about influence. Which getting people to do what we want them to do, which I know how that can sound to someone that's listening to this and they're like, Peyton's a gaslighter. No, hold on. But in the end, that's what influence is.
Yeah.
And so when you use the influence that you're developing in your sales skill set, you need to implant that into your managing process. Does that make sense?
Yeah. 100%. I mean, listen, I don't know if this is exactly what you're talking about, but every time I get off of the huddle, I'm like, all right, closer A, you got this. Closer B, we're going to do XYZ. Setter A, you're doing blah, blah, blah. And everyone's like, yep, yep,
Tie
yep.
downs.
Yeah, we all have everything written down. Awesome, go. And I think people also, the more you talk about the hot leads, the warm leads, et cetera, like I'm very type A and very anal, and I did not do this when I first started, managing a team. But my setters all have schedules, like broken down for like 15-minute increments of what they should be doing for every hour of the day.
I
And
love
that
that.
may sound like I'm a psychopath, but no longer are things getting missed. You know what I mean? I
Yeah.
think so many people just expect, and even for closers, like if you're working with a closer and there's no expectation of what do you do before a call? What do you do after a call? What notes do you need? Where do you put, you know what I mean? Like people just kind of expect, like, oh, well, I hired a setter, I'm not getting calls booked. Okay, well, how did you train them? Where are they sourcing from? Do they have a schedule to follow? I think a lot of business owners are at that level where, again, they kind of just hired somebody thinking they're the expert, but in reality, they may know in general how to sell, but like you've got to
Yeah.
in your process.
That goes back to the idea that like your salespeople aren't you.
Yes.
So yeah, I know what's obvious to me is not obvious to the team literally earlier today that I had to whoop some ass and like really drop the hammer on some things that are very obvious that should be getting done that aren't getting done. They're not you. And so we also need some of that, like some of this is also like you need to release some sense of entitlement that like, well, just because I hired a setter, I should be getting X, Y, and Z. That's just opening the door. You got to walk through it. So you're going to have to train them on some of the simple things that are obvious to you, but you can't expect that to be obvious to this junior sales rep that, yeah, they've maybe set for other places before, but that other place that they sold, that other company they sold for, they might not have your standards. They might not have your expectations. And so that's just part of the things that you learn. And it's one of those things where it's like we all touch the stove, even though we were told not to. And so a lot of us had to like eat the cost of this before we really feel the consequence. We're like, I'm never going to let this happen again. But if you can prevent yourself from touching the stove, just listen to Taylor and I here. And it's like, yeah, you do have to train them on the basics, the simple, the obvious things that are obvious to you. It's not obvious to them. It's worth spending time on.
Speaking of like touching the stove, I think, every time I have learned a really big lesson in my business, because I feel like SOPs are reactive. And we don't want them to be, but like it's because something happened. You're like, ah, fuck, I need to have
Usually,
a
yeah.
process for that, right?
Yeah.
So like the first setter that I ever hired, no huddles, no lead tracker, never really talked to them. Like, did I get the results I wanted? No. Did I keep them for way too long because I liked them? Yes.
Yes.
Right? Like, and so it's just funny because knowing what I know now, it's like, some people will hire a setter. Maybe it's a bad experience, whatever. And I'm sure you can, echo me on this. Like, I am always interviewing for setters, like constantly. That is a position with
Sure.
high turnover. I'm constantly interviewing them. But, if you hired a setter or whoever and it didn't go according to plan, and sales were lower, or if you had a dip in revenue or whatever thing happened that's causing you to be like, oh my God, is everything stable? Those are the months that teach you what the fuck is broken. You know what I mean? And
It's
so,
tuition.
yeah, like if you have an issue with a sales team member, don't just say, oh, setters aren't for me. Because I do hear that from coaches too, like where they tried once and it didn't work out. Now they're afraid they can't grow a sales team. It's like, no, we just didn't have a process at all, right? Or
Yeah.
they may think their process isn't perfect and they're still learning, therefore they struggle to build a process for the team.
Yeah, that I mean, that would just be intellectual laziness, which we're all guilty of at some point and with different topics. It's like, oh, this it didn't work out, so salespeople just aren't for me. Lazy, intellectual laziness. Something didn't work out that made this not work out for you. It's not the sales team that doesn't work. It's just that the something in the process was broken that caused it to not work. All you have to do is find the attribution for why didn't it work, fix that, give it another go. That's it. What's the alternative? Like you just never scale, you never grow, you never help more people. Salespeople don't work. It's working for other people. Why is it working for them but not for you? There, it's not because it's like, oh, it just can't work for you. They have figured something out and figured out how to make it work. You have to do the same thing. FIO, figure it out.
I mean, that's everything though, right? That's like my business is doing,
Everything.
I tried for 3 years. It's like, okay, well, um, hiring a closer, right? It's your first closer. I would love to know, maybe some interview questions or how do you maybe go through skill set testing for some of these coaches that are not nearly as skilled as you, right? Trying to find their first person.
I look for first interpersonal skills. Interpersonal skills are really annoying to train on because interpersonal skills are developed over decades. You and I have been talking pretty much the same way for 10 decades, 10 plus years. That's really hard to change overnight. So the first thing I'm looking for is interpersonal skills, tonality, cadence, body language. Can they smile when they talk? Sounds so simple, but with everyone growing up on Zoom, I think this is one of the things that I've harped on with your team, and they probably made fun of me a lot for it. Is like anytime there was good body language, I would automatically praise because they don't realize how much that's lacking with some of the other calls that I reviewed 2,000 calls last year. The amount of people that can't smile when they talk, it drives me insane. So the first thing I'm looking for is like interpersonal skills. Can they carry a conversation? Good questions would be things that keep people on their feet. Think quickly. So tell me about a time when XYZ happened. How'd you respond to it or whatever? Those are questions that most people haven't already. I've never gone into an interview before, and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna just prepare a time when I received harsh feedback and how I responded to it. I've never had that prepared going into an interview before. No one has. So asking them some questions that cause them to have to like think quickly, respond quickly, be able to finish a thought without knowing exactly how the plane is going to land, so to speak. I think role playing is also great. I think if anyone has sales, if you're interviewing someone, they have sales experience, you probably want a recording of that. You want to be able to see, like, are they not just a good interviewer, but do they perform really well on calls? But role playing is also fantastic. So create some really easy to understand, easy to wrap your head around parameters or template for a role playing situation. A cold call is an easy one for this. Even if your team isn't going to be doing a lot of cold calls, that's still a great way to be able to test how quickly they can carry a conversation and sound like someone that if you were a prospect, you would want to be on the phone with them. Does that make sense?
Yeah, 100%. Um, where would you suggest? I think this is a hard one too, and I'm not looking for a certain answer, but I think people find it so challenging to just find talent, right?
Sure.
So like where would you suggest? Maybe
If it's my it's if it's my first time hiring a salesperson, then like referrals are great. So like other people in the business space, or if you have this is also another reason, another like adjacent benefit to working with a mentor is that they might even be able to point you towards the right direction. I think also past clients are also a good place to look because someone that's already gone through your process, they drink the Kool-Aid. They know how transformative it is, how life-changing it is. That person's going to have high levels of conviction. They've also been through the process as a client, so they know they're going to be easier to train on, communicating deliverables, outcomes, stuff like that. So I've had a lot of success with past clients that did relatively
Especially for
well.
closers. Like, I don't know,
Yes,
closers for me, I feel like it's always been referrals and kind of accidental, which I know does not provide so much help right now. But yeah, it's always been referral based, someone who knows someone or a setter that knew somebody. Whereas like setters, I've gone either the agency route or I've looked on like Upwork before. Some
sure.
it's just your audience, right? I think finding a setter, in my opinion, is harder than a closer. I don't know what your thoughts are, but
Uh, I would disagree just because
really?
the consultative sales space, which your audience is in, the proficiency required just to get the job done for a setter is here. And I don't know if people aren't watching this on audio, you like
The YouTube's going to be there. The hands are very low.
there's a big gap. Yeah, low hand, very
Low hand, high hand.
yeah, low hand eye. It's simple. It's a lower level of requirement for a setter than for a closer. So the higher the proficiency required, then the smaller the pool is, the harder they might be to find. So that's why I think like okay, for a setter, like I can take someone that's never been in the high ticket sales space before and turn them into a pretty damn good setter faster than I could take someone that's never been a closer before in the high ticket space and turn them into a closer.
Interesting. Okay.
For a
I have
setting,
so much experience with like organic DMs and being a psychopath where I feel like, you know what I mean? So I
sure.
feel different about that because what I've noticed with setters, it's so, there has to be so much attention to detail. And I find that that sometimes is lacking, right? Or critical thinking sometimes. But I also know you're trying to get calls booked within like 3 days and you're like laughing at me and I'm like, no, we have like a longer process. But
There's yeah, with the closer, I mean, there's attention to detail
I
needed
guess
with
I'm
closing
also
too.
thinking of like a setter that is being me, not a setter that is jumping in and being like, hey, I'm so and so on Taylor's team, but like someone who is being Taylor in the DMs. That to me is challenging. So maybe that gives
Yeah,
context to
but
where my
there's also yeah, so like a setter in the DMs versus a setter that's making calls. There's a little bit of difference there too because in the DMs that's copy, and there's a lot of nuance in that as well. I think for a setter, if they're making calls, then it's like all you really need is like good interpersonal skills. They know what questions to ask, they know what to look for, and then you can at least just get the close as a setter, which is like you're interested, you fit inside of our TAM and you're relatively qualified, you're at least interested in hearing more about what we can help you do. That's a way easier hurdle to get someone over than give me your credit card, it's 4 grand.
I'm with you. I
You
yeah,
know,
it's also like you have to act like you can't hide behind a
if you
keyboard.
disagree, let's fight about it in front of your
Let's
audience right now.
fight
No, I'm
about
just
it.
kidding. Don't.
I'm ready to fight. No, but I have had way less turnover with closers than setters, is what I'm saying. Like I find
Okay,
that
yeah,
the setting job feels more grimy, right? And a lot of setters want to get to the closing status. And so that's also
sure.
why I think it's challenging. But to your point, I do think training somebody up to be a closer faster because it is, I think you have to be good on camera too. I mean, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like marketing, but like you have to be good and pleasant to talk to. You can't be a fucking awkward person. You can't have hesitation. You have to be ready to take the card on the call. You have to be ready to kind of go to war sometimes if objections get spicy. Um,
yeah.
but yeah, so I mean, I do understand that. A setter is not battling objections, at least not to the extent that a closer would. So,
There's also there's the reason too for a setter that the shelf life is sometimes shorter for a multitude of reasons. One of them being everyone wants career progression, everyone wants to make more money, stuff like that. And then you do get to some point where for you to make more money, you can't easily increase your output any more than what it is. You're going to have to increase the return on your effort, which sometimes comes with closing. But also too, I started out as a setter. My first sales job wasn't even in the high ticket space. It was just cold calling for a real estate investment company before we had power dialers. So literally just making 200 plus cold calls. It does wear on you. Like eventually you get really sick and tired of that, and not a lot of people have the stomach for that long term.
I know. And that's what I mean. Like you kind of that's why I say I'm always hiring. I mean, we had a period, especially when we first started dialing. I felt like every 30 days I was testing out a new setter,
Yeah.
until we finally found like one or two that stuck and it clicked with. So that was challenging. But yeah.
That's also a part of like where sales management is the same, similar to being a sales rep, where it's like you should always be building your pipeline. You never know when you're going to need to cash in on a deal. One of yours falls through, you need to replace them, and it's the same thing with salespeople. Like anyone that's running a sales team, you should always be on the lookout for good talent and keeping them in a pipeline because you never know when you're going to need to cash in on that.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think that's the challenging part. Again, not to go off on a tangent with like being a business owner, but I think that's what's so hard when I think these coaches are hiring sales team members, because in my opinion, I think they need a lot more attention than like, say, a virtual assistant would need. You know what I mean? Like it's just
Sure.
well, it's just different. And I think that people assume if I hire sales team members, I will work less. And I'm like, in theory. But you're actually going to spend a lot more time with those people, right? In order to kind of like outsource those tasks, at least for some time period, right?
Yeah, of course. Like you will work less on insert this particular one sliver of your business.
Yeah.
But you are still going to be that there's a portion of that where it's like, okay, but you might start working more at first to be able to manage, train all of those things. But eventually, hopefully, this is a positive ROI. And then that buys back some of your time later for something else. But the work is still there.
Some people just don't want to work. Some people just honestly shouldn't run a business, Peyton. Okay.
Well, that's very true. That is
Like,
extremely true.
maybe that's the thing. Maybe that's just what we need to say. People,
Yeah.
if you're giving me assistant coach energy, go be a fucking assistant coach. Like, I don't know. Because the more I grow, the more I realize. Now, again, I say this with like an asterisk. I spend a lot of time coaching my clients, but it's not the majority of what I do. A majority of what I do is managing the team, innovation,
Hmm.
marketing, things like that. So I think it's just interesting how you have to evolve as a business owner. But I want to go into some like objection handling. And for the sake of this, yes, we're selling fitness coaching package, whatever. But I think people get so stuck on objections. They're not booking follow-up calls. They're not handling them properly. They're just saying, okay, yeah, talk to your husband. Let me know tomorrow, things like that, right? So I'm going to give you objections and we're going to kind of talk through them. So the first one is, I need to think about it.
Okay. What do you need to think about? I can't handle this objection unless I know what I'm actually dealing with. So, what do you need to think about?
Well, it just is a little more than I thought it was going to be.
Okay, so right there, it turned from a think about it to a potential, is this actually a financial objection, or is this a you truly don't know if you want to do this? That's why you need to think about it. So even right there, now I've got a little bit more to work with. This is where I might isolate the objection. Okay, got it. So is it that you really need to think about it, or is it more so financially you just thought it was more than it was going to be, and you need help figuring out how to make it work?
Honestly, I mean, it is a little more than I thought, but I have tried just so many things in the past, and I'm just worried that I'm gonna let myself down again.
Again, so this is where now I'm being taken on a little bit of a wild goose chase, which happens all the time
You're
because now it's
welcome.
like, what are is this because you've tried things in the past and you don't know if this will work, or is it still financially? So this is where I might even isolate again. Okay, got it. So is it more about you're worried that this might not work for you because you've tried something before and it didn't work? Or again, is this more about this is more than financially than I thought it would be?
I think it's more about me. I'm afraid that like I won't be able to commit to like what the requirements are
Why wouldn't you be able to do that?
because I'm gonna have to change like a lot about my life and how I eat and insert comfort zone.
Yeah. This is where hopefully in discovery, I would have gotten some really good commitments, tie downs, leverage around how what we want, we're not willing to live without. I can't settle for how I'm currently living. I'm willing to do anything it takes. That alone would probably help me completely obliterate this objection. But even still, be like, okay, well, so are you saying that you're not willing to make those changes in order to get what you told me earlier you wanted? You told me you wanted X, Y, and Z. So is that not willing to change for?
I'm willing to do that, but every time I feel like I try something, I'm not able to stick with it for longer than a few weeks. Because I have to be perfect. I don't want to make any mistakes, especially if I'm going to invest this kind of money.
Okay. Well, right, even right there, like what an unrealistic standard that this person is holding themselves to that's going to always throw them in the trash can. So it's not about being perfect. It's about consistency. we can throw in some different buffers to give you some versatility to be able to have a cheat day or whatever. But why do you think that you feel like you lack that consistency and that you fall off? Like, where's that coming from?
I really love making things up on the spot. Well, my husband just eats out a lot, and I don't want to have to always eat separate meals, you know? Like, am I gonna have to eat a salad and then watch him eat a burger? Like, I feel like that's just setting me up to fail.
Okay. And then hopefully again in discovery, I would have
Yeah.
gotten something around the spouse and how they're supportive. They know how important this is to you or whatever. Are they willing to make changes as well to help you with that? Okay. Well, no, I'm not saying that you have to just eat like lettuce, like a rabbit for the rest of your life so that you can get what you want. There are definitely, there are definitely ways for you to be able to still enjoy what you eat and be able to go out to a nice meal with your husband, but also still feel confident about the way you look and you feel sexy on date night and you want those things, right?
Yep.
Okay. So is it worth it to you then to just make a handful of these changes and be consistent? And we can course correct and figure out different ways to be able to make this work for you, but isn't are you willing to make those changes to be able to get what you want?
Yeah, I'm willing to.
Okay, well then what's the fucking issue? Like that's not what I would say. But the way that I like to do objection handling, which we've talked a lot about, is by like my questions.
Mhm.
I think even in that little mini role play or whatever, that was like what, 7 questions or so.
Yeah.
Like, I'm fact checking whether or not this is really an objection. I can't fold to an objection that I don't know if it's valid or not. In the end, when you start out with I need to think about it, I don't know if this is valid. There could be a chance where this objection is valid, in which case I need to set a follow-up or whatever, but I can't sign my name next to something and agree and validate something that I don't know if it actually supersedes the more important thing, which is getting all the things that you want and how you can't stay where you are in X, Y, and Z. And I uncover a lot of that with questions so that I make sure I'm handling the right objection. But then also I get agreements and commitments that we are willing to not let the objection you just gave me hold you back from getting what's more important. I think Napoleon Hill said that like most people fail instead of succeed because they give up what they want most for what they want in the moment.
Hmm.
And even your objections right there is the perfect example of that, where it's like this person is about to make a horrible mistake, sacrificing what they want most for something convenient like never eating a salad or, not going like, oh, I don't want to make too many changes. But this prospect doesn't realize that they are sacrificing something so much more important for something that they really don't care that much about if you really think about it.
Yeah. I agree. And you're right. I mean, I set you up and we didn't even talk about discovery. So I do want to get to that. It is here. I'm just like on an objection. I mean, that's just one that I get a lot because I don't think that people truly know what to expect with the price of coaching. You know what I mean? Like if you just walk into a
Sure.
grocery store and you're like, yo, what does a coach do? How much would they charge? Like I feel like people can't always answer that. But, you know, I know that if coaches are out there selling $400, $800, $1,200 coaching containers, like people can stop charging $100 a month for coaching, right? And I think that
Sure.
like that I know you definitely work with in the high ticket space and get that. But this is not an objection. This is like more of an objection from my clients. And what I hear is there's no way I could ever, sell X amount of money like per package, right? And I'm not somebody that thinks a macro coach should be charging $1,000 a month. Okay. Like I think that
Sure.
is really hard for retention, but anywhere around that $300 to $600 range is pretty standard based on your level of expertise, whether you're doing lab work, this, that, the other. But like, what would you say to, I guess, remind coaches that they're probably not charging enough, and just because they heard no a few times doesn't mean it's the price?
Yeah, I think we come into agreement with the wrong things just because it's convenient to come into agreement with. Like being really good at objection handling is going to require a certain level of of defiance in your character, in your personality. I will never blindly agree to something just because someone said it in order to keep the peace. It's not who I am. That's called being in a cult, which is a bad idea, right? Like I'm not a sheep. I'm not just going to be like well I want to keep the peace, so I'm going to agree with this. That's always going to hurt someone in objection handling. Even in this case right here, if someone says, "Well, I could never charge X, Y, and Z," How do you know that? Like it's just it's convenient to come into agreement with because it coddles a way you feel. You need to fact check your feelings big time. Because there are people out there, again, going back to what we talked about earlier with the sales team thing, there are people out there that are selling for that price and even more. Why can they do it and you can't? It's not because you can't, it's just that they found a way to do it. You have to find a way to do it as well.
Yeah. Let's talk about the spouse objection, right? Again, I know we're
Love
not
it.
going through discovery, but I feel like that's a really big one, right? And so I'm happy to role play if you want me to, but gets to the end, person's like, "Hey, I'm all in. Yes, this is what I need. Yes, I 100% love this, but I need to talk to my husband. He gets home in 2 hours."
Yeah, before I do
Yeah.
play on that, this is again where one of those things where it's like anytime anyone is struggling with the spouse objection, I always first look at their discovery. Um, Discovery makes objection handling 10 times easier. A great discovery is the equivalent of getting the football to the 1 yard line. I still might have to punch it through at the end, right? But punching it through just 1 yard has a way higher chance of success than I skipped things in discovery and now I've got to throw a Hail Mary at the 50. You can still win, but it's way harder. Like anyone with an above room temperature IQ should be able to recognize that that's way easier. So it, even in discovery, right there, like I'm always asking in discovery about the spouse. So, are you married? Oh, awesome. How long have you been married? Fantastic. What's your spouse's name? I love it. Good for you guys. Do they know you're feeling this way? Do they know that you're looking for help with X, Y, and Z? Do they know that you're looking for a coach to help you with blah, 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 blah? Do they know you're on the call? All of those things give me an opportunity to maybe even get it tied down right there that it's like, yeah, they know I'm on the call. They're tired of me feeling this way too. They've told me like, hey, I'm sick of you complaining. Just go get what you need or whatever. That might be all you need to be able to handle the spouse objection later. But at the very least, I don't want to be surprised by this objection. When you're surprised by an objection and I felt like I have this in the bag, but then I get this objection. I feel like I got the rug pulled out from under me. That cortisol cocktail that starts swirling in your mind makes you stupid. It makes you dumb. I start sweating, my heart rate increases, I can't use my brain, I can't think. That You'll never be good at objection handling. You'll never be great at objection handling if you start getting those moments. So in discovery, at the very least, you need to know that this is going to potentially happen.
One of the best things I feel like you told me on one of my calls, and again, it was just, I think it's something that didn't come naturally to me, but you were asking me to ask for specific names of the children,
Yeah,
and that sounds so stupid, like, of course, right? Because we've been chatting in the DMs about it, but it was helpful because at the end, right, the reason that this person needed to do X, Y, and Z or needed to confirm with whoever it was, you know what I mean? Like everything they wanted to do for themselves was to have a better life for their kids, to have more time with their
sure.
kids. And so it just makes it easier in discovery. So, I mean, let's kind of go into discovery because I think that a lot of coaches that are diving into sales, getting higher volume, maybe people are a little bit colder coming to calls. Um, I think that they become a friend very quickly and
Yeah.
kind of lose that authority, right? So I want to know how you set up a call to maintain authority and not become a friend.
Okay, yeah. Um, there's a hierarchy, there's an order of operations, so to speak, for like your role in the sales call and discovery. Meaning that like the most important thing that this trumps everything else is that my only job is to help them make the best decision for them. That means that sometimes that will supersede me wanting to keep the peace or wanting to be their friend. There are times when we can have both, in which case that's like a warm bath. Those are great calls. Great. But in the end, if I have to choose, if they are mutually exclusive and I have to choose between one or the other, I have to choose helping them make the best decision for them. That means that I have to set aside my desire to keep the peace, to be a people pleaser, to keep this as like not rock the boat or whatever. That's your main priority is to help the prospect make the best decision for them. In I've never been friends with one of my doctors when I go in and I'm sick. I don't need to be their friend. I need to get better. If we could be friends, cool. If we can go get a beer after, Awesome. I don't know if a doctor would ever get a beer with me, but in the end, like I don't need to get a beer with them. I need to not be sick. That's what matters most to me as well. So, uh, in the discovery phase, we are diagnosing, meaning that I need to find out why they are not where they want to be, what they've tried, why didn't it work, why is this so important to them. All of that data, all of that leverage helps me better position my value, the value proposition, in a way that will help them make that best decision for them. We're literally building a scale here in discovery. Besides, obviously, yeah, make sure they're qualified, make sure they're a good fit, 100%. But we're literally building the scale where it's like I need to know that this is important enough to you to be able to overshadow the inconvenience of the investment that you're about to make, right? The current circumstance that you are so tired of not being able to fit into that pair of jeans that I know you have in your closet or whatever, the opportunity cost, the sting of never being able to have abs, or whatever it might be. That is what will overshadow the inconvenience and the discomfort or the fear of making an investment, because in the end, we all make decisions typically based on consequence. And so whichever consequence is bigger is typically going to win out. So when we just skip through a lot of discovery and getting that like leverage, that important things, whether it's pain or vision or whatever, well this is always going to be an issue, because you see the discomfort of investing this much into your fitness and health, living a long life, having abs, whatever. You see that as just as painful, or even more painful than making the jump and getting the help that you need or whatever. That's always going to be really hard to out objection handle if you didn't already build up that case and discovery. Am I going too deep? Does that make
No,
sense?
no, no, it's good. It's good.
Okay.
Because I think that people are missing that, right? And I used to mess this up too all the time, right? Like I would be selling fitness coaching, I would dive right in. And granted, I had
Mhm.
built a lot of rapport in the DMs. I wasn't running ads. This is people that I've already been chatting with. But like sometimes you just don't go deep enough in the DMs. And obviously you're kind of sharing your
Sure.
perspective of like a closer that hasn't been chatting, but like, I always tell my coaches, if like you are setting your own calls, right? You don't have a sales team yet. Make sure that you know their kids, their husband, what they do for work, where they live, maybe what their weekend looks like. You know what I mean? Like you're just getting to know a little bit more about them before they get on a call with you, right? Because again, you source them, they didn't come to you, they're totally cold, right? Like, so just knowing those things is helpful. And then getting on discovery, let's say you don't know any of that stuff. To your point, yes, because everything's always going to come back to how can this make their life better? And if you don't know how to speak to the pain, you're screwed. So if you're reactive during objection handling, then you've already lost pretty much. I mean, you can probably save it and salvage it.
Yeah.
If at the end they're like, well, you need to talk to my husband, you're saying, well, did he know you're on the call today? Is he supportive? Like if you're
How
asking
do
all
you think
those
he's going to
questions,
respond? Yeah, are you asking for permission, or are you just letting him know? 100%. I think
yeah,
there is a dance in the DMs too, where it's like so if I can get those things in the DMs because this conversation is flowing along,
yeah,
great.
yeah.
But if I have to choose between getting all of that information or getting them on a call,
Oh yeah,
ensuring that they get
call.
on a call, then we just got to get them on the call, because if
Yeah.
if we were to go back and forth over text or over Messenger in my busy day, then it's going to
Yep,
take forever for you to get those things, versus just getting the call, just getting it booked, getting the
yep,
standard set that we're going to meet at this time. We can get all of those things on the call. So I do think that there's that dance in there. You know what I
yeah.
mean?
So let's say that you handle discovery well and they still want to talk to their husband, right? How do you kind of handle it after that? They're like, I know he said yes, okay, but I just need to talk to him because that's just what we do.
Well, you said he said yes already. Said yes to what? You
That I could invest. But like, it's his credit card and I have to just like make sure everything's good. He didn't know the investment yet.
so it sounds so we've already gotten permission. Is that what
Hmm.
you're saying?
Hmm.
Okay. So you're just wanting to let him know that's all?
Yes.
Okay. How do you feel like he's going to react since he's already given you permission?
I think he's going to be excited and tell me to do it, but
Awesome.
we both didn't know what the total investment was going to be. So I just want to run it by him.
Okay, gotcha. How do you think he's gonna react to that investment? Do you think he'll still be excited for you?
I think he will be. Yeah.
Okay, got it. Well, let me ask you this, because it sounds like you're all in. You know this is what you want to do. You couldn't be more excited to get started. It's just the only thing is just making sure that your husband and you don't fight about it later. That's basically it.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense. Why don't we do this? that I'm not a crazy person. I get it. I want success stories, not divorce stories. I got that from someone else, by the way. Haha. Sometimes funny equals money. You can cut tension with humor a little bit, but let's do this. Yeah, I want success stories, blah blah blah. What if you know this is what you want to do? I want to go ahead and just have our team get things started for your onboarding. Let's just get the ball rolling. We'll get started. Talk to your husband. If anything goes crazy and he's like, "How dare you? I don't want you to be fit. I don't want you to be healthy." That's that's shocking, and I would hate to hear that. But if that's the case, then if and it's really going to provide a problem, then we'll hop back on a call, and then we can just reverse that, or we can do pause. We can also do like a refundable deposit. We get started with a smaller amount, get the confirmation. But I want if this person, if you already have permission, I want something to put your skin in the game to make sure that this isn't just a smoke screen. Like I'm swiping my spouse card just because I'm afraid. I want something that is almost like a litmus test that confirms like what you're saying is true. And if so, fantastic. Definitely talk to your husband. If it is going to cause like strife in a marriage and they're going to get divorced because of it, I'll refund them. I don't, that's weird. Like I'm
So
not
you
getting in the
would
middle of
take a
that.
deposit.
Yeah,
Yeah.
100%.
I think a lot of coaches are not doing that.
Because they're afraid.
Right.
Because they're afraid of confrontation. They don't want to rock the boat. I just want to believe this person. I want to believe the person too. But in the end, my job is to help them make the best decision for them. And if they pass the litmus test, I'm 100% down with you talking with your spouse about it. There's no risk here. We'll refund it, or a refundable deposit. We'll take care of it. But if what you're saying is true, then why wouldn't you be willing to put something down if you can also go talk to your spouse? It's six in one hand, half a dozen in the other.
I'm with you. Like I said, I have seen I don't get, my hands don't sweat very frequently. And watching you objection handle dude for like 30 minutes made me, I was sweating. I was like, this guy's gonna say F you, like to you, like that's what's gonna happen. And he didn't, he fucking paid you. And so, I think coaches are, I know this sounds probably harsh. Well, maybe not to you, but I don't think that you can say the wrong thing to the right lead. I really don't. I think if you say something, like, I mean, unless you're just a fucking asshole, right? But I mean, like, if you're going about things, you're asking questions, you're trying to get to know them, you're not letting them off the call, then I don't think that you're going to just like offend them, right?
Yeah.
So I really go for a closed one or an FU, right? If I know that somebody's like, I can pay you tomorrow, I can pay you on Monday, then I set up a follow-up call for Monday or tomorrow or whenever they're going to pay. But like you said, if it's I got to talk to my husband to make sure he's cool because it's his card, blah, 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 whatever, then I think deposit for good faith is always helpful. I just think people are so nervous to like say the wrong thing, not because they're being too aggressive. They just, oh, well, I don't want to be salesy. I don't want to be pushy. I never want to be that person?
Yeah, they're like, I don't want to ruin the deal or whatever.
Yeah.
But if even in this example right here, like what you're saying and what I'm suggesting, they work together. It's all the
Yeah.
same thing.
Yeah.
Like you still go talk to your husband or whatever. So if if my suggestion for a down payment, a deposit or whatever, talk to your husband, if that ruins the deal, then there was no deal at all. There's nothing to
That's what I
lose.
mean. Like you can't
Yeah.
say the wrong thing to the right lead, unless you're just like, hey, you're a dumbass. Like again, that's we're not talking out
Something
loud.
obscene and
Yes,
outrageous.
and no
Yes.
one listening to this is going to be like that. But I think that we go way, way, way too soft on objections and just let people walk because I think I told you this maybe with my teen one time. If not, I'll tell you now. But being in TV for a long time, this is like horrible to say out loud, but anytime there was a missing child case, okay, that child was not found within 3 days,
Ugh.
not alive. And anytime somebody in sales is like, yeah, I'm going to pay you, if there has been no contact for 3 days, that lead is dead. Like,
Yeah.
it is so rare that anyone gets off of a call and says, yeah, I'm going to pay you at the end of the week. Go ahead and send me the stuff because they don't want to start conflict with you, right? Like, some people just say that because they know you won't ask questions. And because you're naive and think, well, we had a great call. It was an hour and a half long, right? You know what I mean?
Oh, the
You know?
worst.
Like that, to be honest, if there's a call that's an hour and a half long and they don't pay on the call, they're gonna be a problem. I already know it. But anyway, all right. I'm gonna do like rapid fire for us to kind of wrap up, just to get a few like quick hits from you. But number one, what is your favorite opener on a sales call to like break the ice, or anything like funny that you've heard in the past?
Uh, do you mean in rapport?
Yeah,
I don't have anything in rapport. I always just go with the flow in rapport. Rapport
just
should never
chill.
last. It should never last more than 2 minutes. Again, we're not here to be friends. I'm here to solve a problem. So 2 minutes of rapport, that's more than enough. And then after setting the frame, it's always the same thing. What's the thing? What's the main thing that motivated you to book a call with me today? That I want that question to be have enough parameters around it where I get a specific answer on what we're really talking about today, not something like, what's going on with you? How can I help? No parameters. That's a blank check. They could talk about anything they want, and then you're frustrated that the calls last an hour and a half and that they ramble forever. Your questions gave them the permission.
Amen. What is the most overrated like piece of sales advice that you think is bullshit?
Yeah, we don't even have enough time for me to go through the list.
Good.
There's a million. The buy or die is one of those that I think is silly, which I know you probably love though. You're
I
like
don't
you're
love
like
that.
buy or F you. No, I'm just kidding.
It's a joke in the sales team, but yes.
Buy or die is one of them. Oh, mirror their energy, mirror the prospect. Stupid. Couldn't be done. If in the consultative sales frame, you're a leader. You're a thermostat, not a thermometer. You set the temperature. You don't respond to theirs. That's probably my most frustrating one because then I'll see a sales rep on a call and the prospect is very monotone, low energy, and so they just turn into Eeyore, and I'm like, this isn't you, and this is not conducive to getting them into a better state to make a better decision. That one frustrates me.
I'm with you. I would like to set the record straight that I am not a buy or die person.
I'm kidding.
Listen, some rando's gonna listen to this and think I'm a crazy person. Okay. What is a book that every business owner should read that should help them with sales?
My favorite one is actually this one. It's actually technically not a sales book, but it's 177 Mental Toughness Secrets of the World Class by
Mhm.
Steve Siebold.
Solid.
My brother Taylor also wrote a book called Win at Sales.
Shout out.
And I wrote the foreword. I hear that's the best part of the book.
Shout out.
So if you just read the forward and you don't even need to read the rest. It's all a waste. No, I'm just kidding. That one's really good too. It dives a lot into the psychology and the philosophy of sales as well. A lot of these books that I started reading out when I first got into sales, they tried to get so tactical, but then those specific tactics don't have any versatility to them. So it's like I only know one way to do a single thing, which is not conducive to having a high closing rate, because to have a really high closing rate, you need situational awareness, behavioral flexibility. I need to know multiple different ways to do the same thing to get the right outcome.
Beautiful. Beautiful. All right. Deal saving question that you feel like helps, or a question to
Mm,
go to for you.
I don't know if I have a deal saving question, but I have deal saving advice. One of them would be there's only two reasons why you don't set a follow up with the prospect. Either one, you close them, or number two, you don't want them as a client. Anything outside of that, you always set a follow up. I will not budge. I will die on this hill. There is no other reason besides those two that you should not set a follow up. The other one would be don't handle objections over text or email ever, ever. Get them back on a call. This also that's way easier to honor if you honor that first one I mentioned. You should always have a follow-up scheduled. And then if they try to cancel, we get an objection or whatever, don't try to handle it there when you can't control the text tone. You can't control the frame. You can't get the temp check and the feedback based on you trying to handle it. Just don't worry about the objection right there. No worries. Let's talk about it on our call coming up. Maybe I have some ideas. We could chat about it. We'll talk more about it then. Just get them back on the call. I told someone this the other day too, a rep that was making the same mistake. And I was like, this might be a silly example, but I was like, if you and your wife are about to have a knockdown, drag out argument, do you want to have that over text while you're at work, or do you want to just probably save it for when you can sit down with her at home? Well, probably sit down. Then do the same thing with your prospects. Like, why are you trying to have this knockdown drag out with the prospect over text? That doesn't make sense.
How quickly do you set that follow up? Like, what's the time frame for you usually?
As soon as possible. as soon as possible. Again, situational awareness, behavioral flexibility. We can't always have it be same day or next day or whatever, but unless there's a damn good reason, it should not be as far out as possible. Like, oh, let me think about it for 2 weeks. No one needs to think about it for 2 weeks. There has to be a good reason for that. Otherwise, just as soon as possible, same week, only a day, a couple days ideally, but as close as possible.
Okay, last one. Finish the sentence. The best closers are blank.
Um, Best closers are named Peyton. No, I'm just kidding.
I mean,
Um, uh, the the first one that comes to mind because I've been on this topic lately with objection handling are the best closers are defiant.
all right. Is there anything that I should have asked you that I didn't?
Um, let's see here. No, we covered a lot.
No.
This has actually been one of the more fun podcasts that I've been on to talk about
Thank
sales.
you.
I would yeah, I would say like whether you're a business owner that has a sales team or you are just you are the sales team yourself. Man, treat the game of sales as the most important component of your business because I promise it will make everything easier for you as you scale. Or if you don't treat it as the most important thing, it will make everything harder for you as you scale. Everything in your life gets better when you get better at sales, your business included.
I cannot echo that sentiment enough because it does not get easier as you grow. It
Mm,
gets harder as you
yes,
grow, you know? So yeah, I mean, again, my mentor, it like rings in my ear, but he was like, Taylor, pull up a cot in the section of your business that sucks and camp out there. And I wish more business owners like listen to that.
true.
It's very
Exposure
nuts,
therapy.
but
Do hard things until hard things become easy. One of my favorite quotes is if you have to eat shit, don't nibble, which is a disgusting quote. But it's like, man, that is true. If this feels hard, all I have to do is do it over and over and over again, and then it'll become easier one day. Sales.
mic drop. Awesome. Well, thanks for hanging out, Peyton. I appreciate you. And you don't get on Instagram where I would link that. So who knows what
Facebook.
link.
You can just find me on Facebook.
Okay, I'll put the Facebook link for you down below. And yeah, the end. Thanks, guys.
Awesome. See y'all.